there, and welcome to the Second Life Book Club. My name is Draxtor Dupre, and I'm here at the beginning of the word tunnels. The word tunnels, of course, are this vast network of secret underground tunnels that may or may not lead to David Miller or the unified field or the Ricard homunculus. I don't know. And if you are watching this and you have absolutely no idea what is happening right now or what I'm even talking about, do not worry. As I have promised the audience of this book program for a long time, today we have the word terrorist network. Oops, now YouTube is already down because I used the word terrorist. The word terrorist network is on the show today. Three wonderful people who are responsible for giving birth to America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots. Now, what is America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots? A diagnostic, you ask? Well, come and walk with me through the word tunnels and let yourself be bombarded with the word the. Now, how would I answer the question, what is America the Cult of the Cactus Boots? I would say, and I've thought about this all day, this book is probably the deepest immersive experience that you can get right now. Forget VR goggles, forget Netflix, forget Second Life for a moment. This book is absolutely uh it will rewire your brain. Now here we are in the word tunnel. There was an elephant here earlier. I don't know where that elephant is now. Oh my God. Which way to go? Let's go this way. Anyway, so this is a book of 578 pages, and I believe author Philip Friedenberg and illustrator Jeff Walton, they worked on it for I think less than 6 months. Absolutely mind-boggling how they pulled this off. I think I went in the wrong direction. Let's go back here. Let's go over here. There we go. That is the right way. And publisher Rick Harsh, who is also on the panel, he is an American expat living in Slovenia, and he published this thing. And he published this thing apparently. Oops, no, wait a minute. We're at the beginning. Oh my God, I got to go back to the word tunnels. Rick Harsh published this book, and he will have to answer this question. He published this book without reading the manuscript. I don't know how many millions of dollars changed hands. Here we go. Here is the entrance. Now here is the door. Is the camera still following me? I ran a little bit too fast. Here is a door that is called the door, and to the left and the right are two rotating little homunculi. This is actually the publisher Rick Harsh. This is silver color. It's usually gold, but we ran out of money for the in the prop department. Let's go through this door and get things moving. Here we are at the huge tesseract. Now, what is a tesseract? I don't know. You can look that up on Wikipedia, or we will ask the panel. Now, here I am in the tesseract where there is a competitive ironing competition going on. There's some dude over here. What is his name? Sigmundo. He's ironing. Why is he ironing? We will find out. Here's a snake. I don't know if there's snake in the book. Wait a minute. There is a snake in the book. There's an Ouroboros. Stranger, welcome here in the audience says, is it the shadow of a four-dimensional cube? Well, we will find out. Here I am, and here I am with our three panelists. Let me introduce them from left to right and then have them introduce themselves. On the left is Rick Harsh, publisher Rick Harsh from Corona Samizdat. And next to him is Jeff Walton, who goes by the name of Weird Artist in Second Life. That's great because there is absolutely no other weird artist in Second Life at all. He was able to grab that name. And Philip Friedenberg is next to me here, the author of America, the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Drax.
Hello.
Hello, Drax.
Now, we can go and talk over each other and people can expand, but the first question, I would like to have that fairly brief. What does the book America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots mean to you personally? Now, this question could go along the lines like, okay, somebody's asking me at a party, what is that weird thing about, or that book you published, or whatever, and then you give them sort of a short, like, I don't know, summary, or I don't know, is it a love letter to creativity, or whatever you think it is for you personally. Rick, go ahead.
Well, um, I would have answered it differently before your introduction.
You
But
would
I
have
heard
said,
you.
"This is a book that I published that I didn't even read," is what you would have answered.
Am I going to answer this, or are you going to be speaking for me the whole show?
Well, I'm a host. I talk over people, but go ahead, Rick.
Well, the Cactus Boots to me is the book that after you read it, when somebody says four-dimensional pube, instead of saying, "Did you mean cube?" I I just think, "Oh, that must be something. I got to reread the book."
Okay. Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, the book definitely represents one of the, if not the most creative effort I've output in my career as an illustrator and book guy. And working with Phil was amazing. And we're working now on the next project, but it's like you said, it's a love letter to creativity.
And it totally rewires your brain. That's what I tell people all the time.
Sure.
And we'll get into that, how Philip pulled that off. I don't know if he laced the pages with something. Philip, how about you? What does the book mean to you?
Um, Existentially, it's a difficult question to
We
be
have
in
about an
any.
hour.
Okay, well, with the hour,
I'm kidding. Hello.
with the hour in place, uh, I faced the challenge of trying to say what the book was about early in the process of realizing that it would be something that would be shared with other people. And at its simplest, without the existential unraveling of pulling the curtain back on what it means for me emotionally and spiritually and all of those things, it's a maximalist experimental work of metafiction that's a book about writing a book while waiting for a book to arrive in the mail. And that is the synopsis of the book. If I was at a party and someone uh, pushed me to summarize what it was about, that's what I would say.
Philip, that is pretty good. I don't know what, people were warning me of you. They said that you are more long-winded than I am. That was pretty concise.
Well, I felt a good
Don't elaborate, Philip. I'm kidding. No, go ahead.
total pressure to provide cursory insights into a complex, grandiose information system that we like to think of as the Tesseract, which some way mimetically we are right now in the center of, in the representation of the world of, in what we call Second Life.
Which is exactly why this is the time to cut in and provide a real life example. I've been at a party. I hang out in the kitchen, and so does Phil. I've been at a party where he's been asked, and I was the only one that didn't fall asleep before 5 hours were up. Phil was also asleep for the last 30 minutes of his explanation.
Me.
um, if the camera can pull back a little bit, we are in fact inside the Tesseract, which was really hilarious because I was thinking about, can we get a Tesseract in Second Life and make the whole show inside the Tesseract? And we were at dinner and my 19-year-old son says, "Oh, the Tesseract, four-dimensional cube." And I was like, "Dude, how do you know this stuff?" I had to look this up on Wikipedia. I had no idea, man.
Hey, Rick. I think also at that same party when we were snuggled in the nook of the social circle of the kitchen, in a frenzy of the word fever from page 499, I think I looked at you casually and said, "Understanding a picturesque village in uniform is not my number one priority. I'll crack my cool leader and kill Calvin Klein's democracy." And then I think you handed me some scotch, and then we floated on into the outer reaches of the Milky Way.
Okay, yeah, there I did have a gap.
I see that. I just want to say quickly. I see that
Yep.
Lucy has commented "A Wrinkle in Time," a
Yep.
book that has the best introduction for kids, and the short example, other than the geometry and the physics of what the function of a tesseract is, in space as well as in the book. For me, I included the Tesseract in America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots as a direct referential homage to A Wrinkle in Time, which for me, as a fourth grader, when I first started reading, that was the book that became the gateway for me to what I would call the rest of my artistic and literary life as a reader and writer. So I felt that putting a Tesseract in was a direct parallel to the first book that distinctly changed my life. And I then wanted to use it as a reference to a longer historical lineage of an evolution of how a reader, thinker, philosopher evolves to apply foundational concepts to bigger ideas that one encounters later in life.
This is amazing, Lucy, that you put that in there. You guys know each other? No.
I don't know who that is. I think that's a digital avatar in Second Life.
Yeah. We don't even know if that's a real person or an AI of some sort. Oh, Lucy knows me. No, I know who Lucy is. Lucy is Dayanya. If you're just tuning in YouTube, or if you're just coming into this Tesseract, this is a show about America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, written by Philip Friedenberg, published by Rick Harsh, illustrated by Jeff Walton. Wonderful illustrations. This is actually interesting because this is all about the word, the importance of the word. There is Rick, yes.
um, do you have the means to turn to a page in the book?
I
Um,
do.
I
Um,
actually have a whole bunch of quotes here, and we also have the cactus. The cactus wanted to read the author's preface.
okay, well, can we go to
Boy.
page 431?
Uh, I have 423.
No, we need 431 because I have to correct one thing you said.
Yeah,
Because you said it's all about the word,
yeah.
and on page 431, the illustrator Jeff Walton
That's
has
me.
Yeah.
illustrated himself holding the Rick Harsh homunculus. And
Okay. Can the
so,
camera, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but the camera please go up. We have a bunch of Polaroids. We have all these wonderful illustrations of Jeff's hanging here as Polaroids, and there is one where you're holding the Rick Harsh homunculus. So take your time, camera. It's next to the World War fallout shelter. You will find it. Here the camera is zooming around. Rick, go ahead. Yeah, what about that?
well, I would leave it to Jeff and or Phil to explain the importance of, because you're not wrong about it being the word, but the book would not be I can't give percentages, but the book would not be the book without the Walton. And
Abs-
of course, it wouldn't be important to me without the Rick Harsh homunculus.
Hey, Rick, the world itself as both energy and object wouldn't be what it is to me if it weren't for the Walton and the Harsh.
the
You're too
reason why
sweet.
the reason why I'm asking this question early in the show is because I wanted to ask Jeff if he feels. And we talked previously a little bit because you guys are also fictional characters in the book, in the plot, in the hero's journey. And Jeff said he's completely okay with being the Watson to the Sherlock Holmes. I think I said you're the Robin to the Batman. But how about the celebration of the word and all that kind of stuff? And you're just an illustrator, Jeff. Do you feel in any way, shape, or form disrespected?
Absolutely not. I think throughout the book, there's, like you said before, there's times where I kind of help maybe guide people that might be on my level mentally, through
Are you
the,
saying you're slow?
it,
That's
when,
ableism.
well, like when you put me on this platform, perhaps.
But
when
what
you
we
look
have
at
to
when you look at the illustration that I focus on for my own personal reasons, um, it's my real face, and there's a detail that he caught when I wear reading glasses.
Mhm.
and I film myself for a booktube or whatever, quite often the right eye, the glasses kind of push down on my nostril a little bit, and it irritates me. And he captured it. You can see that my right nostril is a
The
little
camera's right
split.
on it. The YouTube people have it within full screen. Yeah, yeah.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So look at my right nostril. I don't like that man. And Jeff caught it. It's utterly brilliant and humiliating.
I
Also, the
also
The
have
diaper.
interesting assertion about the Rick Hurst homunculus and Jeff Walton. Much of the narrative thrust of the book, as we move through the text structure, Jeff is carrying the Rick Hurst homunculus on him in a baby sling, not unlike how I carried my own children when they were growing up. But what's most important about that is that there is actually a literary and critical theoretical scholar named Freeman Thomas Manfred, who's a scholar of the book America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a
Yeah.
diagnostic. And
That
he's
name, by the way,
argued,
can you say that name slowly again? Because I think for a
sure.
scholar, it's a great name. Yeah.
Yeah, Freeman Thomas Manfred. He's an
Hmm.
academic who's written on the book America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. And Manfred has called the memory absorption blunder of the cut open leg of Jeff Walton an incident that's been described as the cause for the death and resurrection of Jeff Walton. And Manfred also proposed that at an unknown point in the hero's quest, once Jeff Walton determined that there was a threat of a TICI antenna agent thought frequency surveillance and pursuit of the Friedenberg Walton Hirsch word terrorist network during the American Word Wars, he found that the government organization actually intended to intercept and destroy the creation and the publication of the literary contraband known to the TICI as America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots by a diagnostic. So Jeff Walton started to put the pages of the book
Mm.
inside a wound in his leg
Yes.
so that he could protect the fiction. And that was actually what allowed us to protect the book to deliver the final manuscript to publisher and friend and cohort Rick Harsh. So that the book that you have in your hand is a result really of Jeff Walton's heroics as an artist, an entrepreneur, a philosopher, and an extreme competitive ironer to dare to stuff paper pages of a book into a very healthy wound on his leg that later turned into a cactus stalk,
yeah, my tolerance to pain.
which
Now,
I've seen.
so
Yeah,
many
it's
sorry,
powerful.
I just want to say, because all these plot points, you're spoiling quite a bit, but thankfully the book is 578 pages and you can get it right now at coronazamistat.com. I promise people that this is a little bit of an infomercial today.
Drax, that part wasn't in the book. That actually happened to Jeff and I.
Right. Is okay.
I
Uh
have
No,
I have a question
yes, Rick.
that I've never asked. But all
I
right,
thought
I'll
I was
ask
I
it.
thought I was the host 19 minutes ago, but I have completely lost control over the
Well,
ship.
I'm asking you.
You're doing great.
I'm asking you as well, Drax. Um,
Yes?
my question. One thing I'd like people to know about this book. Creativity is obviously extremely important, and in a way that you just can't understand to what degree without reading the book. But it's really funny, and I want to know what you three think is the funniest thing about the book.
That's a
The
great
funniest
question.
moment,
And let me
funniest
just say
moment, or whatever.
the
Y-
uh
And you
y-
can't say the Nancy Reagan drawing.
no,
Damn it.
uh creativity is very important, but sometimes creative people who work creatively and who have to kind of make up stuff out of thin air, sometimes, and Philip may agree or disagree, my thing is, as a creative worker, so to speak, I sometimes wish I would just be a bus driver, because driving a bus is a very, very honest profession, and it does something, a very important service for society. And you start working at 8 in the morning or at 5, and then you finish, and then you put the bus back at the depot, and you're done. As a creative person, you're constantly kind of involved with this kind of stuff. So, Rick, this is a great question, and we'll answer it. But I want to ask Philip before, because he is the drug pusher. He's pushing a drug here with this book. Let's not mince words. Philip wants us
Yeah.
all to be creative and embrace this unbridled creativity and explore and this and that. But there is a cost to this, Philip, is there not? You lost your hands in the book. They were gone. uh, Jeff, his leg, there was blood came out. He had to stuff the pages into his leg. Rick was a homunculus that had to be re-merged with his real body. Philip, is the creativity that you're pushing here harder than the guy who sells weed on the playground? Is it really the solution to our problems?
As someone that hasn't bought weed on a playground in 30 years, I will argue that I believe that there are equivalent occlusions to
I
success
knew it.
in both of the required professions. So I have respect for each pursuit. However, my argument in the book is that the underlying currency of revolution is creativity.
Yeah.
And you can quote me on that, and that's what I'm willing to die on the hill for. And when we look at the dominant hegemonic media and government architecture that vies for control, dominance, and mastery of our attention at every move, we have a crossroads that we look at, whether it be axial or sagittal or coronal. We come in and we say, in this moment, I will submit to the dominance of my conscious experience as a human being on the planet, and submit to the reward of a prospect of unrelenting pleasure, which we forfeit limits for, in exchange for participation in a grotesque authoritarian system. Or we argue that we dare to imagine new possible worlds in which we unravel the structures, the dominant structures of control, by experimenting with the responsibility that comes with the authorship and management of our own conscious expression that's driven by creativity. And creativity is the mechanism by which we experiment with new possible systems, patterns, and structures that undermine the dominance of the controlling superstructure that we've allowed to sort of occupy our consciousness and our attention. So creativity is the mechanism by which I argue that we start to explore solutions rather than just critically from the sidelines argue about the nature of the problems. And I didn't want to write a book that just used dystopia as a technique, a critical technique to argue about the errors of the evolution of our dangerous path through the late stage civilization. I instead wanted to simply use dystopia as a point of which we address that this exists, but then we quickly start to move into discussing some of the gateways into what we would call solutions to construct new possible worlds, not dissimilar from the ways that many cases Second Life, the very tool that we're using now to meet, serves as a way to contain, express, reform, and manifest new types of structural gateways into the conscious experience.
I'm sorry, Phil, but which you used the phrase "driven by creativity," and the first thing I thought of when Drax gave that example is the bus driver. If the
Yeah.
bus driver is Drax, the bus driver is going to be living a life of creativity while driving the bus.
Right.
Yeah.
But what my hope was, Rick, and that's a great point, was much of the book in practice is not just the masturbatory exercise of the metaphysics of a metafictional game for the sake of playing itself out. I was attempting from an authorial position to try to practice in the experiments of imagining new possible constructs of the conscious experience through extreme competitive ironing and calculations on classical music that tie into car crash probabilities in different areas of the country, and these absurdist experiments in these ideas of how to rethink the way that we manage and pattern and map the world around us. And if we use the book as a sort of playful, absurdist thought experiment on how to remap the way we view and experience the world, we might be able to create new designs upon it, constructurally speaking, to share and say, this book was my experiment with the creative manifestation of a new possible world. What I hope to share with others is some drive to themselves make their own new possible world that uses creativity to redesign the bus themselves, because
And that,
they were,
yeah.
you know.
No, I don't. Philip, thank you, because this is what I wanted to convey to the folks who have not uh, read this. By the way, Amber is on YouTube. She says, I started reading back in February, but stopped at chapter 5 and haven't picked it back up yet. So we need, one of the side gigs that we have here today is to get Amber to pick it back up. And I know, Rick, we haven't answered your question, but I want to respond to what Philip just said, because this is so important to convey to the audience. The book is super funny. The book is also very, very serious, but also very funny. But what is so amazing is that you feel, by Philip doing this, Philip is doing a whole bunch of things, but one thing that he does is to come into a relationship with me, the reader. And like I said, I mean, I do a creative day job. I have that privilege to do that, so I can express myself, and I get paid for it, not much, but a little bit. Uh, but still, reading this book, I was like, okay, Philip is in, but with his example of doing this, Philip is not only I don't know, going straight into my brain and opening up something that was dormant, even though I have a creative job, a creative day job, but there is more that was not even unearthed, almost like a Scientology. I don't know if Philip, is that his ultimate goal, where Scientology used to say you're only using 10% of your brain, but I'm completely getting off a tangent. My point is the relationship of between the writer and the reader, which a lot of writers go around saying, oh yeah, it's a dialogue, and I go like, yeah. Very often it's not a dialogue. It's a big publishing industry piping down, very, very sort of formulaic crap into our brains, and then we get word fever and all this kind of stuff. But Philip is really, with the way it's structured, and I don't know how he did it, um, coming into this dialogue where the feeling at the end of the day of every day reading it is really like, wow, this is amazing, but I could do this too. I mean,
Drax. That is the central theme at its most provocative of what the book intends to do. Is it intends to serve as a success when someone reads the book, closes it, whether they close it at chapter 1, 2, 5, or at the end, and they feel that they have been cared for in a way that most people dare not care for one another anymore, and realize that I too am an agent of change and potential. And it's supposed to
yes.
serve as an awakening moment, not where I simply entertained or communicated or shared in a long narrative of the grand ideas of human thinking, but said that now that you set the book down is when you become an active participant in the grand cosmological creative experience in which we share and contribute, and you're a responsible participant in it.
Now, let me ask you. Okay, here's a bunch of comments, and I want to ask Jeff a question, but here a bunch of comments.
Can I?
Jamonkey says we need creative, absurdist, competitive bus driving. Now, that's a great idea, Jamonkey. Lucy says restart reading from the end. It'll be fine. You'll catch up with yourself again in the middle. That's pretty good. Monkey says, when you completed this book, what did you walk away with? I don't know if you were asking. I am asking Phil, obviously, but let me ask you, Rick. Oh, Shyla has a great question about: is it a love letter to creativity or is it a story to the novel? We'll get to that afterwards. But first, Rick and Jeff, let me ask you: the story on, I don't want to say the surface, but there is a dystopian plot there, which is pretty cool, with a totalitarian president. His name is Rolf, and he wants to put basically VR goggles over everyone's head, and he wants to replace the consciousness, and people go underground. The word terrorist network. So, would you recommend, as a publisher, you got to sell this thing? Um, if you and I did this here at the book club one time. I sort of summarized it just based on that kind of sort of overarching plot on the surface, and people were like, oh, that's cool. That's all cyber, whatever. That is awesome. I'm going to buy it." And then I thought, okay, if you say it like that, I don't know if that's false advertisement and if people come to you and demand your money back. Um, I personally think what Philip did is absolutely brilliant with the plot here, and then where he goes so much deeper. But the initial scenario is this dystopian America, with this totalitarian regime. Um, but I mean, it's not. How do you feel about this? If you were go out, if you were in a bookstore and you say, yeah, this is a really cool sort of like, fast-paced dystopian cyberpunk novel, you got to buy it.
I I I am not a fan of dystopian fiction or cyberpunk. Um, and but at the same time, I'm not big on classifying books. Uh, but I want to get back to chapter 5. I can't find the end of it. It might be the last chapter in part 1, but um, I would if Phil. If I didn't know Phil and he said, "Look, you got to read this thing I wrote. I think you'd like it," and you'd publish it. If he just gave me chapter 5, I would have published it.
Mhm.
That is as full and funny a section as there is in the book.
Okay, so
You
you
have
want to go back to you want to know what's funny.
no. I actually just wanted to encourage the reader who stopped at the beginning of
Oh yeah,
chapter
Amber.
5.
Yeah, she stopped at chapter 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I was looking through chapter 5. I love the beginning of it because my name comes up repeatedly, but it also leads to competitive ironing and Jeff's iconic Nancy Reagan um, uh, drawing, and probably the most difficult drawing that has to do with competitive ironing, the train going up the hill. So that's an extraordinary chapter, and definitely the place to re-energize, I think.
By the
I w-
way, I didn't want to suggest that I feel it should be classified in that
No,
cyberpunk
no,
thing.
no. I,
But
I didn't take it that way at all.
yeah, but
I
the
understand
interesting
the
thing is
purpose.
because people think in these categories, and this is what the book is sort of about, of sort of smashing that aside and just going much more, unmitigated, with creative expression beyond these formulas and all that. But I
Right.
realized when I was sort of summarizing this, that it sounds like I am basically selling them some sort of Robert Ludlum type thing. I don't know, like a airport novel. I mean,
Well,
sorry, no offense, but
but I've offended someone by using the airport thing, um, and meaning it in a good way. But anyway, to prevent Jeff from speaking at all, I would just like to
yeah,
say
go
that
fast.
I would just like to say about that point, Drax, that I'll accept any summary of it as long as you say "but more" or "beyond that,"
Aha.
beyond
Uh-huh.
and beyond. Um, there are. I read Stephen Moore's. It's on the book. The Stephen Moore quote, and it's not at all the way I would have summarized it. but it's Stephen Moore, the great Stephen Moore. And so who am I to say? I didn't make the assumption of the direct Trumpian satirical aspect. Because I think I've already what Phil has made is something that I was already prepared for with Bush and Reagan. So it goes back even further.
Oh,
The
I didn't
need.
even see it that topical. Yeah, yeah. No, no. I understand what you mean, but it's
Yeah, but I accept all summaries. You know, except I the one thing that I hate to say is, you really would benefit from reading this more than once. People don't want to hear that.
yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, once you read it, you will want to read it again.
Now, I read it twice, and I'm actually started in preparation for the show. So that I might as well read it a third time. So I'm on page 20 for the third time. And you asked what is the funniest part, and Philip or Jeff, you tell me if I need to see a doctor for memory issues, because what I really love is that woman that works in your office who is actually was sort of a revolutionary back in the 60s. That plot, and now I forgot her name, and I forgot what she was involved with. Can you please refresh my memory? See, this is what I remember, that I thought that was the funniest part of the book, actually. Her backstory. Who was she, and what did she do in the 60s? And it had something to do with cabs or something. For God's sakes.
Yeah,
Philip, do you remember? You don't remember your own plot?
yeah,
I-
I remember very much, but the way I would like to frame it, rather than just giving the synopsis that felt unique about trying to tell the story, was that that's an example. Is that the way that I would think about it, and sort of the inclusion of the hero's plot quest arc, from my position, in some cases, some of the big, grandiose, iconic, maximalist books lack a line to which the reader can refer themselves back to as the fractal structure expands, and then you lose your orientation to what it is and where we're going. But
Yes.
what the maximalist book for me was not to write simply a maximalist book in the tradition of maximalist books for the sake of it. I was looking at the text as an information system, and what I've found as we've quadrupled and quadrupled the intake of information that we face each day, it becomes so complex and overwhelming to sort of become a pattern recognition data processing instrument as a species. We're overwhelmed with learning how to precisely take from the information pieces of the story that are meaningful to us, that can somehow lead to our growth, discovery, transcendence, and evolution. So coming back to that little bit about the woman that goes to the taxi cab, and it goes back to a golem, and it goes back to a device that was in a trunk of a taxi cab, that also eventually ties into the digging of the Panama Canal that had
Oh, the
mosquito.
Panama Canal. Yes.
There is mosquito life cycle acceleration devices that were placed in the trench of the Panama Canal, and by accelerating the rate at which mosquitoes were born and died and reincarnated over and over, they created portals that went to a moon base. And from that moon base, you could access a replica version of the Panama Canal through a golem that was created through a device in a taxi cab in South America. And that led into this replica Panama Canal that was being built with inside the sulci of the Rick Harsh cortex. But what I was trying to do, sort of from a storytelling aspect, is line through the thread through the central architecture of this complex information system a story about two people that face an obstacle and they have to overcome these challenges. But the story that you're telling in particular, what I would think of was, okay, I just had these two guys talking. Now they have to get up and walk down the hall.
But wait a minute, Bill.
Yeah.
If I want to understand you here, what you're trying to say is, in a maximalist book that can be so big that people can't relate to it, you created this character that you just described at length and with multiple layers, something we could all relate to.
Of course, right? Because if you think about it, then it becomes a workplace comedy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I described the book.
Yeah.
It's
So
a workplace. See, but oh wow, see,
Yeah.
that's where it should be
And-
shelved. Rick makes it very easy for the shelfers among us, not the bus drivers, but the folks who need to shelf things. It's a
Yeah.
workplace comedy. But
Yeah.
Philip, thank you. You know, you made, and I hope that the audience gets sort of a glimpse what this book does and what you have accomplished with all these different methods that you're throwing in there. I mean, we should maybe we should do another show about the construction of it, but I don't even want to know how you constructed it, because
Yeah.
the feeling that it gives me is exactly what comes across. It gives me the feeling that I can be a lot looser, a
Mhm.
lot crazier, a lot more daring in my creative output in my day job. And even if I were a bus driver, maybe I'll take another route.
Yeah, I would.
Maybe I'll take all my, maybe I'll be a rave bus driver.
Yeah,
There we go.
It's highly recommended, and
But wait, the second show, Drax, should be for the English translation of the book.
that won't come out. That won't come out until 2025.
I thought we were doing the kids version first.
The kids version, and
this is the children's version, yes.
But okay,
nice.
but here's a related question, because Shyla and Monkey, they do research for the show. They watch interviews. I don't watch any interviews. I just read the work and then I show up. That's how I roll. Rick, you know what I'm saying? It's like you. You don't prep and then you publish stuff, and then sometimes it becomes a hit and sometimes it doesn't. But Shyla, who did research here, she has a great question. How do you convince someone to read this book in the age where there is so little investment in taking time? What would you say to them? And this, there is one quote from Philip from an interview. I don't know where she got that from, but is your love for the novel? Um, I just put this up on the big board behind us here. And Philip, you said, I've argued again and again that the book is a love note to the novel as a point in a conversation of which I am only trying to contribute to this history of ideas, to say what is the role of the novel today when it is under continuous distress from an array of media that argues that we should be pushed out of reading, we should be pushed out of using the word, we should be pushed away from exploring complex ideas. So, and this is something that I'm extremely concerned about, and that's why I think the book is so important, because this is a big theme here, that this is the world we live in, where complex and challenging ideas, reading for pleasure, whatever you however you phrase it, is not on vogue. Yes, people, oh yeah, I read this and that, but for the most part formulaic stuff, and soothing, and um how do you I don't know. I think it's the same question that I asked earlier, but
I have
Rick.
to answer one part of it, and I'll try to be brief so Phil and Jeff can go on.
I mean, would you feel bad to spring this to push this novel towards someone like I have, Rick? I mean, I ordered a lot of books for you, and I send it around. Would you feel bad?
I have never seen anything. Nobody's written anything but rave reviews and beyond that, life altering. I've never seen anything like this. But what Shyla is talking about is what I've always assumed until I met people in Instagram and found, which actually shouldn't be surprising, because the United States has always had one great thing, being its own dystopia. It has great subcultures, and there's a subculture of people who who love books and a subculture of people who are inordinately fond of maximalist books. In fact, this is an infomercial, and
Yeah.
the book that Phil is waiting for is my maximalist novel, and it's the longest book I've ever written and the most popular, which is bizarre because two of my favorites are. I have a 67-page novel, and nobody buys it. They do buy the 730-page novel.
Can the camera go down here, because we have both of the books here. We have America, the Cult of the Cactus Boots on the table, and we of course have The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas by Rick Harsh right here on the table, folks. This is an infomercial. Get them now, because when they're gone, they're gone. You can click on it and it will be shot to the website, and you can purchase this right now. So, and also the books here on the ground, you can move them around. The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas by Rick Harsh and America, the Cult of the Cactus Boots. Get them right now, or they will disappear. Yes, who was speaking?
Drax,
Phil? Yes.
just to not lose the compassionate, loving energy of what Rick just said. Much of what Rick said captures the spirit of what this book is trying to do. And when I put the synopsis of the book saying that America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic, is a maximalist experimental work of metafiction, that's a book about writing a book while waiting for a book to arrive in the mail. The missing piece of this that I don't want anyone to ever stray from is that before being an author, I was and still am a voracious, obsessive reader. And what
Yes.
happened for me was that I discovered Rick's book through the universe, and I knew nothing of what it was about other than I sensed I was one of those crazed readers that I wanted that next book in my life as a part or process or step in my journey to continue to grow and learn and discover. And then from finding Rick's book, I found Rick. And in a grand, and then long before that, I have found Jeff, and Jeff and I have been cooperatively in tandem operating in an absurdist minute by minute, hour by hour shared experience of life that's profound and often absurd and overwhelming. But I bought Rick's book, and that signified to me that this was the time for me to make something. And I wrote half the book before Rick's book even arrived in the mail. And what's most important is that Rick inspired me through the creative risks and passion that he took before he knew who I was. Then, inspired from that energy, I made my own variation of the creative voice that was burning in me. And my hope is that as we're talking, this book is burning in someone else, an energy that they too will manifest in a new work of art that will bring love and energy and discovery to other human beings that we don't know. Because
which
we're
leaves out which leaves out what Phil cannot say about himself, and Jeff won't say about himself. But within 2 or 3 days of knowing Phil, I got one of the funniest videos I've ever seen in my life from them. Just a short video, and when that happens, I deserve no credit, because if somebody sends you a video like that and says, "I want to write a book," you say, "Yeah, yeah, please."
Mhm. Is that video exist? Maybe we should link it later. Um, I don't wanna forget this comment here on YouTube. Theory Wave Knight says, I read 60 pages and it was so inspirational that I had to put it down and continue an old sci-fi art novel project.
That's
I'm
awesome.
assuming that he was working on that. And yeah, Amber says this book seems like one that can be definitely be enjoyed out of order. Can it, Philip? Can it be enjoyed out of order? Like, this is Amber who stopped at chapter 5 and now she's going back.
Well, the interesting thing about the order of the book is that it occurs in a vast number of universes all existing at once, and there's unquestionably aspects the recurring iterations of the fractal that could be enjoyed at any time, beginning, middle, or end. But hidden through the information system is a linear tale about two people that are trying to work their way through a dystopian American where there is an omnipotent government organization called the Total Information and Control Initiative that is trying to exchange human consciousness for people that participate in a program called Real American Patriots, where they forfeit their consciousness and their creative agency to have a continuous feed of high intensity dopamine streams through a technology device made by a company called Neuroform that's a ScreenSync 6. But what that does is it takes that person out of the participatory process of contributing to the development of the civilization. And that thread moves through the whole story in a linear way. But what my hope was to make this grand, complex information system around it to show that much like our own lives, as we're moving through the intricacies of the plot and the narrative, we're bombarded with information that we have to make critical and analytical, complex decisions about what pieces of information are going to contribute to the successful progressive development of that story and which ones aren't. So it sort of, the book serves as an exercise for readers and thinkers, philosophers, mechanics, plumbers, lightning control analysts, hot air balloon observers, influencers to be able to say what information is meaningful and what information is not. So like the civilization we're in now, a data-heavy information system, you're hit with so much information that in a way structurally is attempting to distract you from that core story. But when we take all the book and the literature away, that core story is the trajectory of your own human experience. And how are we going to maintain that thread?
I'll tell you one thing that I found that's very disturbing about this book. When I first read it, I wanted to be the first to read it, so I read it a bit too fast. And now, as I leaf through it, looking at page 60, at chapter 5, I see that he plagiarized 2 full pages of my novel.
That's exactly. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And,
Oh,
and
but your novel
I
is a big plot. It's important. Yeah.
well, I don't know if pataphysics requires plagiarism. Phil?
Rick, you wrote a book?
Yeah.
Rick, is that the... I love you, Rick.
Okay, can I jump in here because hold on.
I don't know who's in charge, Drax. Who's running
nobody.
this
It's
show?
the dog. The dog is in charge. Let me jump
You
in
can
here.
hear him?
And
Oh, yeah.
can the camera please cam up to the Polaroids again? And I know it's difficult. There is a book by David Lee Miller, Philosophy of Creativity. We
I
see
got it
that
right
up
here
there.
in my hand. I got it right here in my hand.
Nobody
I'm
can
tr-
see that we're in a virtual world, Rick.
Yeah, but I just so you know, it's got a foothold in what I tend to forget is not reality.
So the green, it's the same green color, Philosophy of Creativity, but next to it, I'll give the camera a little time. To the left of it is the macrocosmic vibrational orgone transmutation universal life force energy fiction generator. And I want to ask, and again, we're talking sort of broadly on these themes of sort of formulaic stuff that is thrown out there, but this is a serious question. This device, the fiction generator, is very important in the book. There's also then a word fever involved, and so on and so forth. The blueprints for this fiction generator was given to your parents, Philip, who worked at SETI, and then they worked for the CIA, I believe. But the aliens gave them the blueprints to make this machine. But my serious question here is you seem to be saying that not corporate entertainment, but formulaic entertainment. And again, I mean, we're talking about the same thing over and over here. I feel like to some extent, um, it will. What does it do? What's the danger if I consume solely this type of stuff that is generated by the fiction generator?
If I understand the question correctly, I can't necessarily comment or provide insightful creative commentary on the one-to-one ratio of consumer with the consumed, because in a certain degree, it's not my place to decide if you want to consume this or that, because that's
That's
your.
exactly the question. Let me clarify one thing, but I think you understand where I'm getting at
Yeah.
because I'm accused sometimes by just making the statement when somebody asks me at a party situation, "Oh, how about that Netflix show?" I say, "Well, I didn't watch it. I read books." And
Right,
I don't mean
right,
it in an elitist, snobbish way. And
right.
then they look at me like, "What kind of snob are you?" But
Sure.
now I'm also talking about when people, enjoy, let's say, a specific genre fiction of, let's say, romance or airport novels for that matter, whatever you define them as. You're not here with this book with some sort of elitist standpoint saying all this stuff is garbage and it's going to rot your brain, right?
No, I'm not positioning myself to provide any comment on what anyone else should pursue in the exploits of their pleasures. That's not my place. I can only contribute to a construct of the arrangement between author and reader, whoever those particular individuals may be. And that was very meaningful, me, Drax, for you to provide feedback to me, because in a way, what you already said to me about this answers the question that you're presenting now. Is that you told me, maybe paraphrasing, that you felt that the book created a sense of energy between author and reader, and in this case, you and I, where you felt as if there was a direct piece of contact and communication, that powerful and potent psychic exchange of which somehow we can look at scrambled text signals on a page that are essentially just symbols that relate to objects and ideas and turn them into meaning. I'm trying to achieve that. I can communicate with the reader, the person that chooses to embark upon the adventure of the text. I'm not
Oh,
looking to I'm not looking to ostracize
oh,
anyone by saying what you
oh,
consume is right or wrong,
beep,
because that's not my
beep,
place.
beep, beep. Oh, okay, I got in. Hey, Phil.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but
First time, long time listener, first time caller. Go ahead,
Ah,
yeah.
Rick. Yeah,
Yes.
no,
Hello.
I thought I was the first time caller.
no,
Yeah.
you're on. You're on the
Okay.
air.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'm a little nervous. Can you see me?
We see you. We see your
Uh,
bandana that was handcrafted here in the digital realm.
okay, but I mean, you can't actually see what I'm wearing.
I
You
can.
wear a sort of floral pattern Hawaiian shirt
That's a
with a wife
tattoo.
beater underneath.
That's a tattoo, and there's nothing else. Now, Phil,
Yeah.
about this communicating, uh,
Mhm.
uh, and anybody else who's listening, about the communication. The thing that there's no end of discovery. There's so many things to discover in this book, and also because you brought up Miller, I pulled out Miller, as you saw, and I usually use it to cover my genitals when I'm on television like this. But
Um,
when yeah,
I have to comment quickly on the genitals and the visibility on television. To quote Rick recently in one of our transmissions from the Great Beyond, Rick said to me, "You look like my balls. I'm so happy." And I said to Rick, I said, if not singularly a love of the balls as objects in space, as much as a love of the fascinating dance of the balls as they move through space, that is truly lovable in a sort of graceful, quantum-minded Annie Kaufman, Jerry Lawler type of way. But please continue, Rick.
oh no, I thank you. I'm glad you said that in public now,
Yeah.
because I agree. And I'd love to be known for that. But the thing about
And
this
we
book,
just lost 10 viewers on YouTube. I'm just joking. We're not on
uh,
TV. We're on YouTube.
I know, I know,
We're
I
in
know.
we're in reality.
Okay, now what I wanted to say, this is important, Jeff.
Yeah,
The
buddy.
Jeff, we with the Miller book that came out of this whole project of selling Phil's book and writing.
Okay, but
No,
that's a
maybe I
little
don't know.
bit too inside baseball. Let me just set this up.
Well,
David Miller is your teacher at whatever
he was,
university in
yeah,
Wisconsin, right? And
right.
he is referenced in America, the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. Um, he's referenced in there. He's an important character, and yeah, I have no idea how he got in there. I guess Rick,
Well,
you told Philip about David Miller, and now
yeah,
there is a book called Philosophy of Creativity that
which
uh,
Miller
that
wrote,
is
and it had gone out of print, and they put it back into print, but also with new writings by Miller and Jeff. I think wrote or drew 41 drawings to go with the new work by Miller, and in each drawing, there's a hidden cactus in the drawing.
It's true.
Mm.
And I only found that out because Jeff finally announced it because nobody noticed.
Did
And
you find them all?
I didn't look at all of them. I just looked at one now. But the other thing, and this is magnificent. When I nobody's going to answer my question but Drax, so I'm going to answer it myself. To me, I think the funniest thing in the book is what happens with the elephants. Um, what is that actor's name?
Steven Seagal.
Steven
Steven
Seagal
Seagal. He's
twins.
here in the
They're,
back. He's the Steven Seagal twins.
yeah,
Yeah, we have him here.
they're elephants, and what the elephants are trying to do. That whole thing is the funniest thing in the book to me, and also the darkest when you find out how it ends up. But
Yeah.
I was looking through the Miller book just now, and there are elephant prints on page 192 of the Miller book, and I thought that cannot be random. So I turned to 192 in Cactus Boots, and that's the page on which David Miller, the high priest of metaphysics and philosophy, is introduced in the Cactus book.
Ah,
The Cactus book also has page 666, although it only has 578 pages. Can I please ask Jeff to stand up from his chair, please? Because Jeff is wearing the Cactus Boots robe. Anybody
here
who
I
wants
am.
this robe can get it from me. Just IM me and I'll send it to you. We actually have someone in the audience here who's wearing it or was wearing it earlier. Let me cam around. Please hold up a hand if you're the
There.
person wearing the Cactus Boot robe in the audience. Where is that?
I
I
saw
see.
I saw it on Carmichael earlier.
Yeah, Carmichael had it and somebody else. I forgot her name. But these robes are, if you purchase the book, if you purchase the gold edition, yeah, Jeff, jump up and down. Camera, are you catching Jeff? He's jumping up and down. Camera on Jeff, camera on Jeff. You will get this robe if you robe, if you purchase the gold edition of the book right now from coronasamistad.com. No,
I
We're
my,
out of
my
gold. We're out of the
uh,
gold.
out of gold.
Yeah.
Now, hold on. There's a
But
whole bunch of. I need to go through the comments real quick because Shyla says, "Is there an audiobook version?" Of Shadow says a film adaptation, and then Lucy says, "I guess there could be a movie about making a movie about the waiting for the
well,
book of the movie."
to comment on Lucy real quick, the irony of that, just to comment on that, is that this is a book about writing a book while waiting for a book to arrive in the mail. But within the book, America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, there is also a Nibiru film crew
Oh
from
yes.
a distant planet that has arrived to make a film version of the book within the book that serves as an extraterrestrial entertainment on the planet Nibiru. And there's a fun scene in the book where we break the fourth wall, and all of the characters in the book and in a scene where Philip and Jeff have their eyes blown out and they channel streams of light that are the words of Rick Hirsch's book, The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas, as Aqua Regia beetles destroy our Zenith radio and eat through our bodies. We're behind a screen, and on the other side of the screen, in a different universe, there's an alien race of beings that are watching the film America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic, on a screen in a movie theater on the planet Nibiru. And all of these sort of things start to tie into what is the expansion of the universe of this fictional, metafictional world that we've created that carries on into the next book, which is called The Museum of General Ideas, that Jeff and I are working on now. And all I can say is that what's most important about my writing and Jeff's illustrating of Cactus Boots is that I feel we've now learned how to harness the energy that we were discovering in this book. And now the process for the next book feels like we've just begun. And that's what's most exciting, is that this book feels like it's just the beginning of something that will continue to last as long as I'm alive. And that's powerful. And just to get two quick stories out of Jeff, because I miss hearing Jeff. I'm going to see Jeff later in the real world, and that'll be great. We'll have
The
scotch
physical world, the
together.
physical world. Sorry
Yeah,
to jump in here.
yeah,
Everything is real and everything is unreal. This is the digital realm, and you guys are then in the physical realm. Sorry, I'm a
that's
stickler
okay.
with that.
I just want Jeff to share two stories. One, Drax, you mentioned Cactus Boots is a green book, and David Miller's republication, as well as his original publication, was green. But Jeff, two stories I'd like you to tell while we're all listening to you. Talk to
Oh
us
boy.
about the cover design of philosophy of creativity, and tell us about the blue fractal on the spine. And then, if you would, the second story I'd like you to tell, which is my favorite, funniest part of the book, tell the story about when I walked up to you at your desk and first told you what I'd like to do. Because that's my funniest part, and that exists prior to the start of the book.
All right, so we're going to talk about philosophy of creativity. I revamped the cover based on the actual 1988 publication. I kind of used the same design components, but then I added a bunch of symbols in there to kind of mirror the symbolism work on the cover of Cactus Boots. And yes, and it was a purposeful move to make a blue emblem on the spine of that book to kind of nod that Phil and I were going to be working on a new project, and that it would be a big blue book and not a green book. So that was that. And then, yes, in the beginning,
Is
when we
everything
first,
going to be green from now?
no, the next book will be a blue book.
Good, because I was pre-ordering it. Otherwise, I would have canceled that. Rick has a deal, but anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, we like Phil said, we've known each other for a long time, and I've known that he's wanted to write a book, or prior to writing this book, that he wanted to write a book for years. And I remember him alluding to something, back when we first met 20 something years ago. And sometimes Rome isn't built in a day, but anyways, we started interacting with Rick, and I know Phil was waiting for Manifold Destiny, and we started getting the transmissions from Rick, just like the book. Kind of, part of the book is a true story. I would say most of it, if not all of it, it's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
110% of the book is all true.
It's a totally true story.
Can I ask a question? Are there how many snakes are in the book? Because Shadow here on Shadow here on the on stage. He's curled up right now. He's a snake, and he loves snakes. Shadow does, and he's asking, are there snakes in the book, and how many snakes?
Well, there's an Ouroboros,
What is an Ouroboros?
which means there's an infinite number of possible snakes.
Snake
Mhm.
eating its own tail. But I have to throw this in. I am the snake man of Press. I have the snake books. I have a
Mm.
book called Arjun and the Good Snake.
Hey, Rick.
Let's look at this link and put it here again. This is an infomercial. Hold on, Philip, real quickly. I want to be mindful here. The people are putting so many interesting concepts here. Dex says, I just got lost. Which universe is watching which? Um,
They're both ignoring. They're ignoring each other, and this is what comes in the cracks.
and yeah, Philip, your comment, because also the cactus really wants to read. The cactus has prepared
Okay,
reading.
yeah.
He
What
has
I'll
the
say
we
real
got-
quick
We got to
is,
get Jeff's story.
yeah, we got to get the finish of Jeff's story.
Right.
And
Oh,
Rick,
did we interrupt, Jeff? I'm sorry, Jeff. Yeah,
Yeah, Jeff,
Uh,
shut the hell
yeah.
up, Jeff. Jesus,
Yeah, I know,
you go
right?
on and on, Jeff.
Jeff is
Yeah, I
going on,
know.
and yeah, it's so hard to because
One
yeah.
story, and that's it.
It's wild because I'm not a good public speaker in my first life, so it's crazy how it translates to my second life.
You're
But
among cacti. These are all friends and cacti. And Steven Seagal is in the background. That's a little menacing.
well, yeah, that level of nostalgia makes me a little more comfortable, I guess. But yeah, so you go back to Phil and I interacting with Rick via Instagram Messenger, getting our transmissions just like the book says, and I remember, it's Phil coming into my office with a fire in his eyes, and he's just, I don't know, man. I've been talking with Rick, and I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna write a book. I think I'm gonna do it. And I said, well, shit. If you write a book, you better let me illustrate it.
Awesome.
that's
And there
true.
we are. It's
Is
all
that
true.
Is that
Yeah,
the
that's-
right story, Phil?
Yeah, the funniest part of the book is when I was talking with you, and then it struck me, and I ran up to Jeff like I do 12 or 13 times a day with some absurdist level of hysteria to neatly deliver to him that he then responds so artfully to, and that's much of our relationship. But I said to him, I'm going to write a book. And he said, well, okay, well, I'll illustrate it. And then I said to you the next day, hey, Rick, I'm going to write a book about waiting for a book to come in the mail. And you're going to be a character, and I'm going to be a character, and Jeff is going to be a character. Will you publish it? And Rick said, absolutely.
And again, as we know now, Rick does not read before he publishes stuff. Can the camera briefly, because I just realized something, and this is so amazing. Again, I mean, I'm reading it now for the third time. This is just so unbelievable. I just realized if the camera can zoom into the table. By the way, here the table is supposed to be the Zenith radio. It really isn't. We couldn't find a model of the Zenith radio where the transmissions from the great beyond come in.
It's a real radio.
Looks
Yeah,
great.
what is the model? It's the Zenith, and we have the illustration up here on the Polaroids. People can look at it. But the one here on the table, what's the exact model number of the Zenith?
It's a Zenith 7G605 Transoceanic Clipper 1942 deluxe portable suitcase radio that was popularized by traveling GIs during World War II.
Jeff, can you put that in the local chat? The reason in front of the microphone here on the table is actually the first lines that you wrote, Philip, and it's what page is it on? It's on page 423. Old cactus boots under a bus make magic clouds that rain down onto the graves of old finger foods.
That's true. I can
So
tell you a
there is
quick
a bus in
story.
that line. There's a
Yeah,
bus in there.
you better believe it. I have hundreds of small post-it notes and things, and it's not interesting to me to hear a writer talk about what they do to figure out how to get their ideas from their head into their book, but I have some odd ones that aren't interesting to bore people with, but a lot of it is writing little pieces. And the first moment that I realized I was going to write a book, I wrote that line in one delivery, word for word, and it was the contents of a post-it note. That post-it note appears in the book. I have since, as a gift, Chris Villa, critic, Leaf by Leaf, he now owns that post-it note. I gave that to him as a gift. And what we did was I wrote that down, and Jeff and I then started to sing that line in a sort of raw Tom Waits-esque voice message
in
that
response to my
that
Tom
yeah,
Waits.
which Rick, we were going back and forth with, like, Rick delivering this gruff Tom Waits melody that he sent us, and Jeff and I are going like, oh, Rick's sending us these, like, sounds like
Transmission.
this Tom Waits. So then I grabbed the post-it note that was the only words that I had written for Cactus Boots in about the first minute of its conception, and we sang it in return to Rick as if Jeff and I were a Tom Waits duo contributing to Rick, who was the singular Tom Waits. And it was
What street do you live on in Buffalo, please?
Rugby Road.
That's what started the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Rugby Road in Buffalo. That was a Tom Waits lyric waiting to happen. So Tom Waits is actually responsible for this whole thing.
Unbelievable.
Jeff, okay, before the cactus reads, the last thing, because I love Jeff's tell of the story. Jeff, speak a little bit, if you would, to the process by which the cover of America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, with all of the iconography within the center of the Mandelbrot fractal, how we would verbally work those things out. Talk a little bit about that process, if you would.
And the camera can go onto the big board because I'm going to put the book up on the big board. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we work together, as the book says, because the book is 110% true. We actually do work together, and so he would get ideas. He would go home and write, and he'd come in. So I actually worked on the cover the entire time the book was being written. And then as he would come in and relay cliff notes of what he wrote the night before, I would take some of these plot points and work them into the fractal there, and you could see all the iconography on the cover. And having read the book, you could potentially remember all the parts, all the major plot points by looking at the cover. Obviously, it looks like a bunch of gibberish if you're
there it is. I see it.
Not familiar.
Wow.
My word, look at that.
I'm
What a
making it
hand.
really,
That's
really
a giant. That's a giant hand.
My word. So
I'm not even in your time frame, and I see it. That's how big the hand is.
Yeah.
Hey, Drax, this is a perfect time to answer a question that you asked me an hour ago.
Well, wait,
Phil,
let Jeff continue a little bit. If I understood this correctly, because I just brought up the thing, so you can understand the whole plot is given away in these little things within this thing. I'm talking like my grandfather now. The thing in the thing of the thing.
Thing in the thing. No, you're
All I want
like
to, I don't want to interrupt for long. I just want Phil to sit up straight and respectfully as one of my authors.
I've been working on that since Drax's grandfather first told me that I should as well.
Nice.
And Rick, I didn't listen to him, so I don't know if I can listen to you.
Okay, nobody listens to me.
I do. Just not as it relates to posture.
Okay. All right. Nice shoes.
I want to change my posture now. How do I do that? Here I go.
I think you have to stand up in the middle of it. These chairs are all messed up. But this is not the military. Rick cannot dictate to us how we sit. So so all
Well,
this stuff is here like this.
especially since you don't have legs, I don't want to.
There we go.
Right.
All right.
Okay, but so the
Yeah.
cover, yeah.
You've been drinking
Yeah.
steadily throughout, haven't you, Drax?
Hush, hush, Rick. Jeff is talking about the freaking cover here,
No,
for
no,
God's sakes. I know
it's
you
not
guys are the wordsmiths, but without his
it's not hush.
illustration,
It's not hush. It's harsh. I mean harsh. Harsh.
If you're gonna buy the book and not read it, you can at least do the actual functional maze on the cover.
see,
That is
now people are buying. That's
There
a
you go.
sale right there. Boom. If you
That-
can't listen, if you what Jeff said, now the sales are coming in.
There you go. Yeah, that is an actual doable maze with a solution that takes you from the Corona Samus logo all the way to the unified field. It's Feel the Rush.
Camera, can you go to the side because Jeff is talking about the spine, and it's a little pixelated because the resolution is when I brought that into Second Life, the resolution is a little low, but you can see here on the spine is the labyrinth, and it goes also to the front, and here I mean, Jeff, honestly, this is really this book is as an artifact. And I mean, Rick, tell them how many I bought. I mean, I bought, I think I have 4 at home, and then I bought another 10 or so. I forgot. But
I
if you
wouldn't
don't
be
have any
surprised.
money, people in the audience, if you don't have any money, just message me. Matter of fact, I got spam earlier, unrelated to this program. Somebody spammed me and said, "Hey, I'm a little short on Linden dollars, Drax. Can you give me 20 Linden dollars?" I don't know that person. I would have sent her a book instead. But anyway.
Also, we're in terms of spam, we are going to be sending out mail that comes from the board of directors of the creative imagination of the United Federated Interior Spheres of the Rick Harsh Brain, which is formerly known as the BBMCCAFCIW-2T700F document. And it has a certain pedagogic swagger to it that we're going to celebrate on what we like to think of as 4th of July in the coming months, because Rick had, when you look at the Rick Harsh Neural Grammar Machine junction box, it outputs a certain bilateral budgetary mind canal compensation adjustment funding credit that really just brings an extra sense of energy to anybody's day, like when you first roll on that first application of deodorant in the morning, or you put on that nice new crisp sock. That's kind of what it feels like when you move through Rick's mind.
Mm. Does Rick
Thank
have
you.
crisp socks? That will be news.
No, I don't. But
Yeah.
I didn't know that I had a replica Panama Canal in my mind either until I read the book.
That is actually, I mean, we talked about it too, but I mean, Rick, you actually have a funny video on your YouTube channel where you talk a little bit about that you knew you were you were in the book as a character, but you did not know to what extent and what the role was, and um that might be well, that's just another really hilarious part. Let me say thank you to Kitten Duo for the super chat on YouTube. Thank you, Kitten. Kitten is always watching us on YouTube, and I hope, Kitten, that you come in World one of these days. Kitten, if you have a question, actually I have a question for you, Kitten, here on YouTube. um, would you um, would you read this book, and why not? This is this is my question to Kitten. No, I'm joking. Where was I? Oh, did the cactus want to read something? Oh yeah, the cactus wants to read, and we have 7 minutes left in the program. The cactus wants to read a 1 minute excerpt of the author's preface, um, which I think is very cool because it talks about how you guys never met in the physical realm. Does that still hold true?
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's become even more true.
Unbelievable. So listen to this excerpt. This is the author's preface of the book, and especially the folks sitting here in Second Life. And when I read this, I mean, you know where my mind went, and it's unbelievable. So here we go, Cactus, aka Second Life Book Club General Manager. Here is a short excerpt the grand literary experiment?
Author preface, a note to Rick Harsh. I'm excited for the moment in which you, Jeff, and I sit in the same room for the first time, as we have never before met in person. And in that room, there will be the manifold destiny of Eddie Vegas. And there will be America and the cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. And those tomes will exist as small cosmological paper planets. And we will be their estranged sun gods. And for a brief moment, there will be an unexplained fleeting order in the universe based upon a rare manifestation of an eccentric composition of convergence, symmetry, chaos, creativity, ascension, expansion, transcendence, radical probability, mystical authenticity, potential, and truth that is rarely captured by terrestrially bound mortal men. But for that one moment, when we sit together in the center of our fictional world, as the symbols of ourselves are radically replaced by our actual selves, only then will there exist an honest order in the cosmos in which our literary doubles are replaced by our actual selves, and only then will the project, this grand literary experiment, finally be complete.
And
All
it
right.
has been done. Thank you, Drax.
Exactly.
Thank you,
Well,
Drax.
Yeah.
that was not me reading. That was the
No,
general manager. I mean,
No,
his
no,
voice
but
is—he's a
that's
very good
true.
voice, but yeah.
oh, but
Our,
you are the driving force behind this, and you did make this come
I
true.
made it happen. I brought
You
you guys
did.
Yeah,
together. The grand literary experiment is now complete.
and we've
yeah,
now enjoyed an honest order in the cosmos.
right. And when we do meet in the awful sphere, we'll just do a standard thing like go to a bar and drink whiskey, and it'll be great, but not
That
this
sounds
way.
great.
Yeah.
Just yeah, you can't drink whiskey in Second Life. God damn it.
We'll bring the Dawson's Creek fence post with us.
Oh, absolutely.
Does anybody have whiskey here in Second Life? Just put it on the table. I wanna ask a quick question, Philip, because you were a musician and always once a musician, always a musician. I am curious why you felt that expressing yourself in with words in this format is more for you than through music. People always talk about music is the universal language, and now you're writing a book. Yes, it's about America, but it's also only in English. So if you had expressed these sentiments, is that even possible to express that musically? Because in an interesting way, I'm a musician as well, and I feel I could. There's a lot of things that I can't express, or that music doesn't give me, that books give me. And then people go
I
like, Drax,
I
but you're a
agree.
musician. How are you anti-music? I'm not anti-music. I'm pro-book. So I
I
don't know how to express that.
I think it's a pro diversification of the creative tool or apparatus. All that's changed is the tool and the apparatus, yet the energy behind it serves as similar. And in some regard, that's the uh, call to this idea of our transcendence as a consciousness into this pure form of experience that we are striving to with any creative art or act. And that's find this unified field, which is an overarching, powerful, vibratory state of conscious experience where we are able to exceed the mechanisms of expression that we use so ruggedly to attempt to define the undefinable characteristics that exist beyond the boundaries that keep us pressurized into human form. And in many respects, in playing music or writing or doing anything that's an act of self expression, we're resisting and pushing against the pressure of pure vibration that is placed upon us when we have to occupy the limitation of the human experience. But each and every moment that we flirt with the profundity and beauty of that energy unbridled, we are touching upon that infinite and universal vibration that transcends all of us, but connects and unifies us. So whether you're using your pen or your guitar or your anything that it may be. The book is really a frustrating struggle to try to use the apparatus of language as a thing that points the finger to a broader, pure vibration of potential ascendant experience. However, the thing that we use itself, which is the word, disrupts the symbol and object relationship to the point that the thing itself that we're using is actually preventing us from touching that infinite experience. So there's a tension and a frustration within writing and within the process of being human, because those moments of pure beauty that we feel when we talk to one another and we connect and we resonate on higher levels of the conscious experience, it would allow us to flirt with the infinite. And that's sort of what we're doing in this book, is we're just saying, let's push out the boundaries that we know are just pressurizing us temporarily within human form until we can go beyond it into this grander unified field where our pure potential is essentially some high particle light or wavelengths, and we can float off the planet.
Philip, this is amazing. And let me just say, I was watching the monitor while you were speaking, and the camera was panning over Jeff's illustrations here in the room up there in the Tesseract while you were talking so passionately about this, about life, the life force. And it was
Yep.
just beautiful panning over those wonderful illustrations while you were talking. Lucy is saying, damn, Friedenberg talks just like he writes. This is entertaining as fuck. So that's great. I wanted to say, now I know how you wrote this book in 4 months or however long it was. Sammy says in the local chat, he misheard. He said the driving farce or driving force. Sorry, I misheard.
What I
And
would just say to comment on that lastly, and I thank Lucy deeply for the kind words. Page
Tell
2,
her which book you're reading.
America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, page 2, book 1, The Scriptures of the Cactus Boots. For 10 minutes and 10 seconds, we sat silently together, saying nothing to one another. The entire world. We sat together, peacefully frozen in time, with the world put away and out of our view, as we, every mother, father, son, daughter, brother, sister, grandfather, and grandmother, collectively, quietly listening to Arvo Part, Spiegel im Spiegel, mirror in the mirror in an F major diatonic scale played in 6/4. And when it stopped, and the world fell quiet again, and the entire population of the earth's people floated off the surface of the earth, and the readers of the book floated away into the clouds above, as the world was washed away, once and for all. The book began. This is the slow evaporation of consciousness. So my conversation, in some respects, to the function of what I hope the book is as energy and vibration and symbol, is where the book begins on page 2, as the entire readership of the book and the civilization ascended towards the unified field. We drift and float up off the planet into infinity.
it's beautiful, Philip. We got it. We got to wrap it. I think the cactus can't read anymore. This is so wonderful. I should have pulled that quote because I actually have it. I don't have it in World. Amber says on YouTube, she says, I feel privileged and a strange mystical connection to the book. To have received it before Corona, Samistad had a functional shopping cart. Contacting Rick directly via email to make the purchase feels appropriate and relative in a way to the actual story. That's wonderful, Amber. Actually, and Philip, my experience was similar because I saw I think I saw the Chris Villa Leaf by Leaf, fabulous booktube channel, highly recommended. And as I with this, as you point out, Philip, and sometimes a book approaches you and that's for me. And then first thing you do these days, you look on Amazon. There is no such book. You go like, wow, that's weird. And you go further, go Goodreads. Well, there's a Goodreads. And then you go further down the rabbit hole until you arrive at coronasamizdat.com, a website with no shopping cart. That said, if you want to buy something, send an email to Rick Harsh. And you go like, okay, fine.
And that's
Yeah.
the same way that I found The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas. And in a sense, every reader of the book is a member of the cult of the Cactus Boots. And that's what the title directs our attention to, is this idea of a cult of readers who are visionaries and use creativity to connect and explore and grow and discover. And really, the idea is that the protagonist of the book, in a traditional non-experimental sense of the function of fiction in this case, is that the book succeeds in that one moment where the singularity springs upon the universe and the reader says, holy shit, I'm the protagonist of this story.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that was my biggest hope, was that you read the book and you have a moment, whether it's on page 2 or it's on 200 or 578, where the reader goes,
431 usually.
or 431, where the
423,
homunculus
because that's the day I got married. But go ahead.
is I just have I have an
Congratulations.
ambitious romantic idea of the reader protagonist becoming the hero of the world, and we'll continue to tell the story. And I'm thankful for everybody that's taken a chance on us.
That's a wonderful closing word, Philip. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Rick. We're going to wrap it here. We could go on and on and on, but we also need to then again go into our solitude and take our books and in our places of quietness, of single tasking. I was going to ask, actually, let me a quick last round, because Rick, it was interesting. Rick talked about on Instagram and readership and the hunger for big novels, maximalist novels. So this whole pessimism that I have, or this fear that we're going to hell in a handbasket. Attention economy, and nobody reads and nobody's interested in challenging complex stuff anymore. Sometimes you encounter phenomena on modern platforms where you go like, there are young people, and they're not all just doing TikTok videos all day. Um, so Rick, this kind of gives you hope, I guess, a little bit. And Jeff and Philip, you're younger than me and Rick, so maybe you never lost that hope yet. But I don't know, what gives you hope in regards to, I don't know, sliding into authoritarianism, but I think more importantly, sliding into the comfortness, the numbness of just having all this stuff wash over you. Do you
Uh,
see any signs, light at the end of the word tunnel?
I
Not you,
uh,
Rick. You already answered that question. Jeff,
oh, okay. I thought you were gonna. Okay.
you talk
I
too
wa-
much.
I'm not. Yeah, yeah. I'm done.
Jeff?
Well, okay.
Jeff,
Well,
Jeff.
here I am.
Or maybe you don't even see it as negative as I do, as an old guy.
No, I wanted to say I will answer it, but I'll be brief.
Do it.
Okay. I I view it very darkly for the long run, but at the same time, what I do find optimistic is that it's a sort of mathematical truth. The very problem that you see is solving itself because people like you see it.
Hmm.
If that makes sense, and even if it doesn't, but there will be reactions to tyranny, to well, to all the cultural negatives. There will be reactions, and the pessimism only comes from realizing that that it may be too few, too late.
I'm not so concerned. I mean, I see when we're talking about that in the political. I mean, looking from Germany towards America, I actually see, the the resurgence of the labor movement. Okay, let's not totally like say, okay, this is awesome, but there's a kernel there. There's something happening that is totally exciting. But I'm more talking about like the ability and the willingness to engage with difficult art, I guess is
Yeah,
really the question.
I would say it's the same.
Mm.
I see it
Ah,
I see
yeah.
it the same. That that people when I get concerned about my own children spending too much time on phones, um, my thought is their brains are going to get tired of it, and they will go back to books and whatever else and music.
Ah,
So
that I see. So the formula,
yeah, it's
that is
formulaic. It's
the
formulaic.
the formulaic nature that is addictive is at the same time also will push you away, and you will want more. You will want a
Yeah,
Philip Friedenberg
it's sort of
novel.
a yin yang thing.
Okay. Jeff, real quick, that was way too long. We're way over we're 10 minutes over time, and it's Saturday. People want to go out and see the ball game or whatever they do in America.
True.
They go read.
Well, I've said it before. For all of the hours that Phil has read books, I've been drawing. So me personally, I don't have a large catalog of books that I've read personally, but I do know that the experience of creating this book and interacting with the community associated with this book and the fans of the book would lead me to think that there's hope that there are still people talking about stuff like this and meeting up and talking about it. And it's been a great experience for me.
That is beautifully said. That exactly that, even if it's just this little microcosmos, that is beautifully said. Yep.
I agree, Jeff.
That gives you
Thanks,
that is
guys.
For me, the hope
Jeff, by the way,
aspect.
we have whiskey on the table. Sorry to interrupt here, but the snake shadow put whiskey on the table. If the camera could zoom in, I don't know what brand this is. Is Jack Daniels or what is it? What is this?
I
Yeah.
keep trying to
Uh,
touch it.
the nice thing is, in
Okay.
probably in 2 hours in First Life, the real Jeff Walton and the real Philip Friedenberg will be drinking scotch together. Uh, as it relates to the hope aspect for me, and as genuine of a way that I can share, um, is that my hope has come from the fact that statistically, I have been so humbled and inspired by a number of people that have responded to their experience with the quote unquote difficult piece of artwork that we created, that has shown me that the success of the book begins when the individual believes that the story then belongs to them. And I have
Mhm.
felt now for a significant period of time that America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots is not our book anymore. It belongs to the people that have found a piece of themselves in it that was missing from the bigger narrative of the story that they're trying to understand about their place in the world and their place in proximity to the relationship of what that means to them. That's been what gives me hope. And the awakening that will occur is when art serves as a fractal look into a discovery of a piece of you that you felt has long been absent from your experience. And when you discover it and reapply it to the grander salt collection of the many fragments that make up your consciousness, and you feel connected and complete, then that's when there is not just hope anymore, because hope to me is some type of anticipation. We're moving beyond hope and beyond anticipation, and we're starting to move into awakening and action. And that
And
is the greatest,
there's no
and
better
and
example.
and
No
that's the
better
greatest
example.
that's the greatest threat to tyranny, and it's the greatest threat to totalitarianism, and it's the the greatest threat to the power structures that want to control and dominate us. And I think my hope is that we are starting to act and we are going to create change.
And there's no better example, and I'm no ass kisser, but there's no better example than this, what we're doing right
I love
now.
you, Rick.
The
You're
cactus,
right.
the
And it's
cactus
sparked by the
experience,
book. Yeah.
but sparked by the book, we found someone who willingly puts in obviously hundreds of hours into something out of passion, and that is utterly amazing. It's
What are you
happened with
talking
the
about,
book.
Sigmundo, who's ironing over there, or who are you talking about? Hundreds of
Uh,
hours. You don't see
uh,
it, Rick, because you're not in world.
yeah, you. Well, it's right next to me. I see, but I have the delay, so I just see Phil thinking, "Why the hell is Rick interrupting me yet again?" Um, Hi, Phil. Yeah,
Hi, Rick. I love you.
yeah, I love you too. How could I not? But I love Jeff more because he's like a mother. He
I
holds
love
me.
Jeff. He's my brother.
But Drax, I find this whole thing utterly amazing, um, and not just what it has ended up to be, but also really the passion that you put into it. We've come across a lot of this with the Cactus Boots, but this is a very high point. It's very advanced technology, the kind of thing that would normally, it's the kind of thing we fear, and it's being, I don't want to say used, but
Appropriated.
it's being applied. It's being
Yeah.
applied, appropriated, applied to
For
uh, a,
revolutionary purposes. We took it from
yes,
the tech bros. We took this from the tech bros and we made it into a revolutionary tool.
it's a kick in the balls.
No, what Philip said is so important, and people, I don't want to repeat this. I mean, we have a record, we recorded this, but the Philip's point of moving beyond hope into action is such a profound point.
Yeah,
I love that. That is so important because we're all everybody, every politician, every doofus talks about hope, 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 this and that, and blah 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 blue. Let's move beyond hope, folks. Come on.
That's right. I'm post hope, and I mean it with
That's a
my
T-shirt.
whole
Let's
heart.
commodify this.
Yeah,
Come on, we gotta
yeah.
commodify.
But I do mean it, and I mean it to such a degree that I'm living it. And what I'm most grateful for in everyone in my life that I love and care about is that I've now been able to enjoy a return on that investment in being surrounded by such beautiful people that care for the same idea, that it's not window dressing anymore. It's an active process which we're participating in and living toward each day. And that act of living for something that you believe in of itself is an act of revolution.
And on that note, I will end it. Thank you, guys. This was really awesome. I'm gonna run very quickly through the credits, and then we actually have a post roll. People can leave or hang around or whatever. But the post roll on YouTube also has a bunch of excerpts actually that I pulled with some nice music. You may recognize this music. This is actually Avo Pärt, Spiegel im Spiegel. Although I love, there's a lot of references music in the book as well. I love Schnittke, Toccata is referenced in there. Oh my
Oh
God,
yeah. What a piece of
unbelievable.
music.
Yeah,
And
unbelievable.
I'm obsessed with Philip Glass, and there's a lot more exciting music in the next book.
If there's no Penderecki in your next book, I will not buy it.
yeah.
This
It's
has
already
been
there.
Here.
this has been the Second Life Book Club. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, audience. If you like this program, we do it normally on Wednesday. Consider joining the YouTube channel. You can donate through PayPal or Super Chat. We don't get this is not a money making endeavor by any means. We do have sponsors. Linen Lab is giving us these islands for free. And we have two sponsors that I want to mention real quick. Bespoke Caravan, they make fantastical avatars. They make Rick's avatar today. Bespoke is a incredibly creative consortium, multi-generational group of folks out of Long Beach. They're awesome. They make wonderful stuff to express yourself. And the other sponsor that we have is, of course, the Black Forest. They make low land impact, high detail board games. Now, these are games that you know, Othello, chess, and so on and so forth. But Arden also makes custom games that he invents himself. Also, Arden for this show made the emitter in the word tunnel. I emailed him, and I think 20 minutes later, I had a the emitter, and this is just absolute magic. And I believe Arden will also read the book because he has ordered one. I wanted to buy it for him, and then he ordered it 5 minutes before I wanted to gift it to him. But that's how it goes. So I saved $20. That's not bad. The Second Life Book Club is every Wednesday at 12 o'clock Pacific time, Second Life time. The show is produced by Isabel Sharon, Shyla the Super Gecko, and myself. The location manager, master builder is Ruby. Ruby is not here today. She built this whole thing. Avatars are made by Ruby and Bespoke. I mentioned that research is by Shyla and Monkey. Oh, this is actually the second slide. Thank you, guys. slbookclub@draxtor.com is the email for the program if you have suggestions for authors. And like I said, Wednesday, today is Saturday. We're going back on Wednesday, and next Wednesday's guest, December 7th, is Derek Landy, the creator of Skullduggery Pleasant, which is young adult. And this is really interesting. This is a big author, best-selling author. HarperCollins sent me 30 books in a big carton. I might give a few of them away. See, Rick, that's how they do it. With you, I gotta buy my books, but HarperCollins just sends me a full box. At the same time, they don't really
You
pay their
didn't get
work.
my box?
No, I was gonna say that HarperCollins sends me books while they don't pay their workers a fair wage, but that's a different story. We'll address it on Wednesday.
Oh, I don't pay my workers either. But I did send you a giant box. I don't. I'm. Oh,
It,
I'm sad.
no, it was a beautifully wrapped book. That concludes the show. We'll go to the post roll, and thank you guys for coming. And again, thank you, audience. Thank you, guests.
Thank you.
This was really
Thank you.
inspiring. Bye
Thanks,
bye,
Drax.
everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Get the impression Jeff is not an absolute